Whenever you tell people that you have depression, they give you advice like, you need to be more optimistic, you need different perspectives, you should go out more. I'm not saying those things don't help at all, but I think what a lot of people don't understand is depression is not always just about the way you think. Sometimes you could be totally the glass half full type of person and still get caught up in a pile of mess. Depression really isn't a choice. In 2021, right when everything was going well in my life, I began to lose sight of that point. For so long, I thought that when one day I have my own place, a stable income, and be fully independent and far from the people who could hurt me, I would feel better, and my life would automatically turn around. So I dragged my feet along and made a lot happen. But then, by the time I got everything I thought I needed, depressive episodes started to creep up on me. The loss of control over my body, cold sweats, nightmares, flashbacks, the feeling of paralysis and pointlessness was washing over me. And then I was unable to get out of bed at all. I didn't even know why this was happening now instead of while I was experiencing all those past trauma. My life was finally on the right track. I didn't have much to complain about. I mean, I've always held sadness within me. I knew that. I just didn't realize it was eating away at me. I spent a great deal of my adolescence and young adulthood convincing myself that I was a survivor. I trained myself to see the silver linings in everything. I fought for hope and love in friends, relationships, and my pursuit of success. I was determined to heal myself, and it seemed to be working, or so I thought. This severe condition of depression took me completely by surprise. It was like there were two Ericas in the same body. The first was the shred of the rational, insane one who wanted to go far in life, who tries really hard to hold the fort by getting the bare minimum of work done so that my life doesn't completely fall apart. While the other Erica, the train wreck, just won't cooperate and is constantly screaming, fuck it all, fuck everything, nothing matters. Not going to lie, the devil was prevailing, and my body was so exhausted from fighting what seemed like an impossible battle. So I was giving in to the fatigue from the constant inner conflict between the grown-up, rational side of me and this other side that is broken, defeated, confused, sad and angry. That's the side which I believe occupies most of my subconscious, which will explain why I'm so goddamn self-destructive. I was withdrawn from friends and family. It was like my feet were infused with lead. Every step I took to move forward was a struggle. Bottom line, my spent, scorched soul could no longer get up and go on. I wasn't about to let everything I built crumble into pieces though, so I decided to get help as I had nothing else to lose. And believe me when I say it was one of the most difficult choices I've had to make. There is a stigma that people with depression are weak. Some say that those who need to rely on antidepressant are just not strong enough. I used to think that way too. I don't anymore. After months of treatments, including medication and psychotherapy, I've come to recognize how I was not doing myself any good by being dismissive of my negative thoughts and feelings. I never wanted to be a victim, so every time I was in pain, I went to be sad alone. Or if the sadness manifested in anger, I would condemn myself, because I found it ugly, even though it was for self-preservation. After such a long time of not properly processing all of that pain, eventually it just caught up to me. Over 20 years of being conditioned to hate myself, and my subconscious believing that I didn't deserve any happiness, I stood no chance at making it without getting help. I was running around depleted, hanging on by a thread. I needed help. Particularly professional help. I used to think the people who claimed to love me but couldn't help me just didn't get me, and that made me feel lonely. As I matured, I realized sometimes people may just not know how to help you as they may be limited in their emotional capacity or the fact that everyone is different. But just because your loved ones don't know how to help you doesn't mean they don't love you. That's a fact. So when it comes to getting help, sometimes you've got to leave it to the professionals. And just because one professional doesn't feel right, doesn't mean you stop there. You keep looking until you find someone who works for you. Your way, your treatment, improving your life. I also stopped beating myself up for getting depression, and I refuse to let anyone label me as fragile. I believe in a way I've been much stronger than those who have chosen to take their issues out on others. I have always carried mine alone. So much so, in fact, I would push everyone away, then hurt anyone by unloading my stress and pain onto others. because I don't want to spread any negative energy. But letting things bottle up inside me was not working for me anymore. The baggage I had been carrying from the past was crippling me. The important thing now is to recognize the severity of my condition and the need to stay on top of it. And that means being cautious, mindful, and focused on preventing from a bad episode. I can no longer just wing it through life. I must be one step ahead and avoid getting myself into situations that would trigger a bad episode. I must be the gatekeeper of my own sanity. The recovery process is long and challenging. Sometimes it's even one step forward, two steps back. But the fact that I have overcome my reluctance to seek help was a good start, I think. I hope those of you who may be in the same boat as I understand that you are entitled to your pain. Everyone's different and requires a different way to process and deal with things. So don't measure yourself with anyone else's standards. Lastly, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle, but it is one they can win. We all can.